Hello everybody, I'm Pastor Jay.
And I'm Lady Lovett.
And welcome to the Rock International Church. We're the senior leaders here of this beautiful edifice. And our theme this year is CSI. What does that stand for? We're in the year 2020, which is a new decade. And we understand that most of us are saying that 2020 is perfect vision. However, God has instructed us that it deals with clarity, sharpness, and being iconic. This is going to be the year that God's work is going to be clear, concise, and perceived in your life. And it's going to be so big that it's going to be talked about. It's going to be iconic. Before you get out of here today, please stop by and see one of our beautiful deaconesses so that they can share some vital information with you about what it is that we're doing in this upcoming season. We promise not to harass you. And before you get out of here, we just want to let you know that there's no other place we'd rather be than here
at the Rock.
This week's announcements are as follows. We will have a time of power-packed prayer at 6:30 p.m. On Wednesday night, another time of power-packed prayer at 6:30 p.m., followed by our Wednesday night word study at 7 p.m. Please check out our upcoming events.
What's going on, everybody? This is your boy, Minister Thompson, coming to you live here from the Rock International Church. Listen, we are gearing up for our Millennials Conference, Saturday, February 29th, 2020. Listen, we're going to have a day session, we're going to have breakout sessions, we're going to have panel discussions. You have questions, you have problems, bring them to us. Bring them to us. We want to answer everything. There's no limits, there's no secrets, there's no nothing. Then that night, we're going to come back for a worship encounter here at the Rock International Church. We're going to have some of South Florida's finest worship leaders. So come and check out this Millennials Conference, Saturday, February 29th, 2020, here at the Rock.
Welcome to the Rock International Church Love and Marriage Q&A. We have Prophetess Shakia Lovett and Pastor Jamian Lovett. So we have questions for them.
Good evening, everybody. It's an honor and a privilege to stand here before you on tonight to field your questions, your thoughts concerning relationships, but not just relationships, marriage. One thing that baffles me is that we have a set of people
Back and forth, answering these questions. We come with some years of experience. We have went through several of these questions that are going to be answered, several of these questions that have been asked. I think we both can relate to a lot of these questions. So we are ready to answer all of these questions and hope to give some revelatory information that can help these people who have sent in the questions.
Amen.
So we're ready, moderators.
Okay, first question. How do you deal with conflict?
How do you deal with conflict? You want to start, then?
I think that one of the things in dealing with conflict is understanding your partner and communication. A lot of times you can have conflict in marriage and you're not reading or understanding what your partner may be upset about or want the answer for, or maybe conflicting back and forth. So I think the most important thing is understanding your partner, number one, and having open communication and being able to dialogue, being able to actually sit down and have a conversation. A lot of time conflict, as we went through our couples retreat this weekend, we learned that a lot of times we don't know how to communicate with one another. We don't know how to talk to one another. We don't know how to actually get down to the bottom of what the issue is. What's the
That's a very good question. That's a very good question.
You want me to start with that one as well? Overbearing parents. That's difficult, especially sometimes when we say things like mama's boy, daddy's girls. We have those overbearing parents who have been in your life for 18 years, reared you, grew up in a household where that's all you knew. And sometimes it's hard to break that chain and break loose and then go with your mate. When you're joined together with your mate, that is your mate. And sometimes it's hard still when you marry somebody to break loose. And an overbearing parent is someone who still has that chain and has that hold on you and has not released you to your mate. And I think that is the problem, is that we need to say, it's time for you to release me to my mate. And it takes that child understanding that and being able to go to the parent and saying, it's time for you to release me, because you're no longer in that role of parenting me anymore, and where you can have a say-so in my marriage. And I think the most important thing is not to cause conflict between your mate and the parent. Or you know, the adult or your parent, your mother, your father, but it is your duty, the child, to go to the parent and say, hey, it's time for you to let me go. It's time for me to now have this relationship, this adult relationship with my spouse, because this is who I am now. This is who I belong to now. So it's important not to have conflict in families where you now have them conflicting with one another, but then you go into them and say, hey, it's time for you to release me and let me go, because you're going to bring more conflict if you continue to try to play both sides.
I agree. If I can add to it just a little bit, again, I'm coming from a biblical standpoint. And from a biblical standpoint, we understand God's original design for marriage in Genesis 2:24. It says, for this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and the two shall become one. We understand that it is hard, as Lady Lovett has said, to break away from parents that we've been around all of our lives, that we've shared intimate moments with all of our lives, and personal things all of our lives. However, when it is that we decide that we want to have a significant other, a spouse, a mate, we understand then that our parents can't parent our home, because we are out on our own now, and we are cultivating our own family, our own culture, our own traditions. We're doing all of that, and by you having an overbearing parent, one thing that we all need to understand is that having an overbearing parent can put stress on the relationship. I know that we may be quiet on that one, but it puts a lot of stress and a lot of strain on the relationship, because whether you have a man who has an overbearing mother, I'm sure that man's wife is not going to like the mom up in their business 24/7, not trying to control the son and tell the son how and when he should do what he's supposed to do. Likewise, when you have an overbearing father telling a woman, listen, daughter, you need to be here then, you need to be there then. No, when I said I do, I've now been given to my husband, and my husband is the head of my home.
Wow, thank you for that. How do you truly know that your spouse is the one? Woo.
Woo. That's easy. When you know that your spouse is the one, it's very clear that he or she is going to make you feel in a way that nobody else has ever made you feel. When you know that they're the one, you'll be like Adam when he saw Eve and said, good. This is my good thing. You'll understand that he or she is that one because of the way that you feel, not just on the inside, but about yourself, how they make you feel when you get up. But you also know that your spouse is the one, not that you can live with them, but you can't live without them.
Amen. So it's not that biblical thing where, you know, people get real religious and be like, you know, the equally yoked thing, you know, you automatically feel yoked to the person, you feel joined to the person, you know, something spiritually jump up in you.
Now, I won't agree. What depends on how we define being equally yoked and unequally yoked, because a yoke can be formed by illegal soul ties. A yoke can be formed by soul ties, and we understand that soul ties happen especially not just with premarital sex, but also with just interjoining with this person and being around this person and taking on their spirit. You can have a soul tie connected to you. but it's even worse when you indulge in premarital sex. So it depends on how you define being unequally yoked or being yoked the right way. We understand to be unequally yoked as we take the example of the oxen being up under a yoke. You can't have an ox and a goat trying to plow at the same time. We both have to have the same mind. We both have to have the same thought process. We may not have the same energy. We may not have the same power, but we complement one another, if that's all right. You compliment me well, honey.
I hope so. So I know, see, this is, a lot of times people go through this list. And I remember when I was younger, me and my best friend, we came up with the list. And we had a whole list of stuff that we came up with for, who our mate was going to be, what he was going to have, and all these things. And he had to check all these boxes. And all these boxes had to be checked. Well, lo and behold, the person that I married, he checked some of the boxes, but not all of the boxes. So we have to throw out those crazy lists that we think this person is supposed to check. And I think we really have to dig deeper into who our mate is, or who we need to be joined with, or who our soulmate is, and who we need to be married to. We need to dig deeper than the physical attraction, absolutely. Because a lot of times we're physically attracted to a whole dummy out in these streets.
Right.
And we really need to go beyond these physical attractions, and we need to learn who a person is. That's why I believe there should be a dating process. That's why I don't believe in this whole, Netflix and chill. Not the Netflix and chill. I do believe in, you need to have Netflix and chill. You gotta be careful with that. But y'all ain't just Netflixing and chilling no more. Y'all Netflixing and bedding. So we got to be careful with that as well. But we need to get to know the person. And that's why I really encourage dating and talking and having conversations. They don't talk no more, they texting. We used to talk on the phone. We used to have conversation. How do you know the person if you're not talking to them, if you're not having conversation? Text messaging, they not correcting your spelling and whatnot. You don't know if you can really spell or not. So these are some of the things you really got to get to know the person. You got to know their personality. You got to know their attitude. You got to understand when they're upset to really know if you're really connecting with that person on a deeper level than just Netflix and chill or text messages. To really know if you can spend 15 years, 16 years down the line with a person.
And a lot of times when we are trying to select a significant other, many of us can't tell the difference with being in love and lusting. A lot of us lust our significant other rather than being in love. And when you're in love, you know you have the right one.
Okay, we're gonna do a quick intermission. So.
All right.
Okay, we're back.
That was a commercial break?
Yes, we did a quick commercial break. What advice could you offer blended families when incorporating the kids' discipline issues?
That's a good question as well. One thing that you can't do is you can't force the spouse on the child from the outside or the outside of the marriage, the current marriage. You can't force the spouse on the child. One thing though that we have to always remember is that we've gotten away where children now are very common in their disrespect to adults. And whether or not your blended family or blended children call their step-parent, mom, dad, whatever it is, no matter what, they still owe respect. And I feel like in this instance that none of us as parents, co-parenting or whatever, should allow our children to disrespect our child's father or mother based on how we feel about them. There should always be a respect factor. So then if the respect is not there, there's definitely going to be a hard time. But if we have a respectful child and a loving spouse, then blending the family is never a problem.
I agree. I come from a blended family, and I was also blended into this family. When I met my husband, his son was 6 months old, and I think when it comes to discipline, I would say first, make sure that the person loves your child just as you love them in order to discipline your child. That is first and foremost. And also, I was very careful, and I can say even walking in discipline with our son, is that in the beginning and even now, we would have a conversation together about anything that we, thank God, he is a very well-mannered and well-behaved child. I never, ever had any issues with discipline, but I would even when I would have the conversation with his father and say, hey, this or that, and then we both would deal with it together. It would never be me going by myself and saying, whatever. It would be us together, and we still do the same thing with our own girls. We don't discipline our girls differently than we discipline him. It's all, we do it the same way. And I think that's important in disciplining in a blended family, is that you treat all the children the same way. You don't treat one child a different way. You don't treat one child that belongs to both of you differently than you treat the other children. You treat them all the same way, and you show them all that we treat them all the same way, so that they know that there's no special treatment here or there, that all the children are treated the same way. And that's how I would handle a blended family. That's the right way to do it, so that all children and everyone in the whole family feels that they are together. Then it's not blended, we're all together. It doesn't make it stepchild or one child here. It makes us all feel that we are together. It's not a blended family, we are family. So you don't label it that way so one child doesn't feel left out here or there. We are all family, and I think that needs to be established from the beginning, and it needs to continue on. He's 21 now, so I don't think we did it from the beginning and established that from the beginning of 6 months old, so we carried it on so nobody feels any different.
Thank you, Lovett, for that. The next question I have, when having a disagreement, how do you diffuse the disagreement without letting it truly affect the intimacy of the relationship?
Are we saying long term or short term?
Short term.
Short term, it may affect your intimacy, depending on the escalation of your conflict. It may have an issue, but again, this goes back to what we first started, which is not letting the sun go down on your wrath. You do need to know your significant other. You do need to know how to communicate. You do need to know triggers. You do need to know buttons, but you also need to know how to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry will get you there quicker than just holding on to some pride like you never did anything. Every now and then, even when you're wrong or not wrong or feel you're not wrong, you still should say, I'm sorry.
Even when you're not wrong?
Every now and then. Okay, babe.
I don't know about that even when you're not wrong stuff.
Okay, babe.
Okay, babe is not I'm sorry. Okay, babe is not I'm sorry. Intimacy may be affected when you're dealing with conflict, because the conflict, especially in females, I don't know, let me speak from the female point of view. We cannot engage in intimacy if we're upset. I don't know about every other female, but I know about this female. We cannot engage, let's say, in proper intimacy if we are still in conflict. We talked about this again. If you guys have not come to one of our couples retreats and you are in a marriage, please come to one of our couples retreat. We go a little bit deeper about some stuff, but in our couples retreat, we talked about dealing with conflict, and sometimes even just to save face, just doing it, intimacy. just to kind of get over it. And that's not the proper way to be in a marriage, to be in a relationship. But intimacy is affected if we don't deal with our conflict, if we don't deal with our issues. And it may be for long term and it may be for short term. It's not right, because I know the Bible talks about it, with not withholding. However, we gotta deal with this stuff in order for us to have proper intimacy, because if you want proper loving, we got to get to the bottom of it and deal with our conflict, because intimacy is going to stop. And intimacy is not always intercourse. We can stop touching each other because we're mad with one another, and that's intimacy. That's feeling. That's emotion. That's intimacy. That's being intimate with one another, and that will stop if we don't deal with conflict. And conflict has to be dealt with in order for intimacy to continue. And intimacy is a huge part of relationship.
I concur with the missus.
You're going to get questions at the end, sir. Put your hand down.
Already.
You ready?
Okay, the next question is, what can I do to stay motivated? My spouse is ill.
That's tough. It's tough to still stay motivated even when your spouse is ill. But this is when us as believers, we hold on to our Christian faith, and we believe in healing, and we believe in God healing our mates. So we stay motivated in faith. And that's where I can come from as a believer, is that my motivation will come from God healing my mate from the sickness and from the illness. And I can even go from a point of, I deal with intermediate illness a lot. I get severe migraines where I'm down, and when it comes, it knocks me out. It's like no movement, no anything. And sometimes it takes me to a point where I'm like, I feel bad for my family, because then they have to take care of everything for me. And it's like, even with my husband, because it's a point where it's like I'm no longer a wife in that instance, because I can't move, I can't do anything. I'm totally wiped out. So in that point, it's like my husband has to have some type of compassion, understanding, and patience for what I'm dealing with, because he has to sit there and be like, again, because it happens so often. It doesn't happen just once every blue moon. It happens often, where he has to say, am I going to deal with this in the long run? Am I going to continually have to not know when we have to just shut our life down for her illness? Can I handle this? And if he can handle this, that's something that he does on a constant basis. And it's just, just having the faith and saying, God, I know one day she's going to be totally healed. She's going to be totally free from this. And continually having that faith and believing that God is going to totally set her free, totally heal her from this. And that's the motivation that you would have in illness. And I know this is, not an illness like cancer. Thank God. It's not an illness like something like that. But it is.
Thank you for that. The next question I have, what are your thoughts on gender roles in a relationship, marriage?
Woo! Let's talk about it.
So who washed the dishes?
Woo! Let's talk about it.
Well, I know that we are 21st century. We deal with a lot of millennials. I guess in that sense, I am still somewhat old school.
Well, let me drink water, y'all.
I'm still going to be the one to take out the garbage. I'm still going to be the one to make sure that the cars are taken care of. I'm the one who has to make sure that even her car is fueled when it's supposed to be. I'm the one who's going to be taking care of the mechanics around the house. Whereas the inside of the house, let me put it that way, the inside. I feel as if that's a woman's role. And again, I'm coming from a place where I fully understand that you women are all always home. Yes, when we have a two-income home, that's great. That's a bonus. That's a plus. But I feel as if I provide as a male that we can share some roles Honey bunny, can you make me a little dinner? Honey bunny, can you, take care of the house? And I think for 21 years, we survived pretty well.
So when it comes to gender roles, I have definitely had my share of debates with several women on this because they feel as though I am too old school with this. And I think it's because I grew up in a house where this is what I saw and this was the norm for me. So I always saw that, and this is something that I brought into our relationship. I saw the man always, doing the outside work and doing the taking up because I don't touch the garbage. So, I saw the man doing the manly things, and I saw the woman doing the womanly things. So the gender roles for me have always been that way: cooking, cleaning, taking care of the kids, the man doing the outside work. Those have always been the gender roles that I grew up with. That's what I always knew. So when I became a woman with a husband, that is the gender roles that I took into my home. However, as we grow up and we, evolve into things, I got a lot of flack from a lot of the women that I hung around that say, girl, this is the 21st century. We do not do that stuff. The men cook, the men do the laundry, girl, you doing too much. And I began to receive that flack, and then I began to say, I would take that home to my husband, you need to do this, But then you have to realize, and then one thing I had to realize, everybody's house is different. Right. Don't take what you're doing in your house to somebody else's house, and don't take what they're doing in their house to your house, because their situation may be totally different than your situation. So gender roles for me are different in everybody's house. Everybody's house is done differently. Your husband may cook, your husband may clean, and that's fine, and that's what's done in your home. And if that's how you guys roll, that's how you guys roll. It's working for you, let it work for you. And what works for us, it may work for us, but everybody's house is different. Now, if you are uncomfortable with doing the female things and that's uncomfortable for you, have the conversation with your mate and let him know, hey, this is uncomfortable for me. It's some stuff that we're gonna have to split up. I've had the conversation with, Lovett about, okay, babe, I'm working a lot of hours now. I need you to help out a little bit. And he has stepped up and said, okay, I see it. Today he cooked steak. So there's things that are compromised, and there are things that happen that we do evolve and we do change into things because life changes. We grow up, things happen. So gender roles are different for every home, and you don't set what happens in this house into your house, and what happens in that house into that house. What happens in your house, work on it, talk about it. What's gonna work for your house may not work for my house. What happens in their house may not work for your house. Work on what's gonna work for your home. That's what I say, the gender roles.
And always remember, even from a 21st century standpoint, even though you may feel it, there's nothing wrong with old school, and that's anything, old school, there's nothing wrong with it. You may be able to build upon it, but that doesn't mean that the method of the old school was necessarily wrong and yours right.
Because I enjoy, nothing brings me more joy, and this may seem real crazy, nothing brings me more joy than putting a plate in front of him and him eating it and saying, ooh, babe, that's good. That brings me so much joy. Last night I cooked turkey wings and he was like, ooh, babe, this is so good. I was like, yeah. That brings me joy, and that's just something that really brings me joy, for someone to be satisfied with something that I cooked for them. So again, that's an old school way of thinking. That's something that I learned from my parents. That's something I learned from my mom, my grandmother, cooking, being in the kitchen on Saturday morning, being in the kitchen on Sunday evening, cooking up collard greens and that big meal, and for them to sit down and eat it, and then really your belly full and you full and you saying, oh, that's good. That brings me joy. That brings my heart joy. So that's something I enjoy.
Oh, I definitely enjoy it. But when the roles are defined, though, it makes the home go easier.
Right.
Yes. That's good.
Nobody's confused.
That's great. Thank you guys for that. the next question, it's a two-part question. If there have been any infidelity, how can I trust my partner again? And how can I feel secure in the relationship again?
Okay. It depends on how we're asking this question. Are you asking from a worldly point of view? Or are you asking from a godly point of view? Because when we understand that marriage was a God thing and not a human thing, then we begin to understand and know that marriage He meant it for a lifelong relationship. What am I saying? Again, at our couples retreat, we give a gang of nuggets. And so when God's design came in Genesis 2:24, He says the two become one flesh. He gives this example. He says the two become one flesh. But here's the interesting thing. The interesting thing about marriage or marry, this is where we get our root word. The Greek actually means gem. It means gem. And the way that we get a gem is taking two different elements and fusing them together. Now we understand that when two different elements are fused together, they can never be disjoined, they can never be separated, they can only be destroyed. So then we understand that when God said, and the two shall become one, He meant it for a lifelong relationship. Now it takes minutes to get married, but it takes a lifetime to build a marriage. Therefore, I understand that even when infidelity creeps in, I may not like how it feels. I may not like that it was done. I may not feel right about it. I may be angry with my spouse for more than a year, more than 2 years, and I may not trust them. But I can say this, that everything in a marriage is salvageable. It can be worked out. But it's based on the two individuals who are in the marriage themselves. We understand that when I got with my spouse, I didn't get with my spouse just because of the way she looked or he looked. I got with my spouse because I'm in love with my spouse. And we understand that it's the enemy's job to try to hear me. And so we understand then that once infidelity creeps in, it is a decision based on the individuals whether we can go on. My thoughts, you can go on, you can get past it, you can make it. However, is it going to take time? It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of trust. And for the person that crept out, it may mean letting her or him hold your phone 24/7. It may mean that y'all go together a whole lot of different places. It may mean you being a whole lot more open and honest instead of being closed in and very private about your affairs and everything that you do in life. But I believe that everything is workable. You can trust your spouse again. But you have to know that when you said I do, I signed up for a lifelong relationship. Now, did God say He permitted divorce? And yes, we go back to, well, divorce is permitted based on infidelity. It is. But understand that the Bible, when that was written, said that He gave divorce for the hardness of the people's hearts. If marriage was a man-made thing, then marriage could be put aside and put in whenever a human felt like it. But if it's a God thing, then only God can take it away. This is why the Bible says, what God hath put together, let no man put asunder. This is what the scripture means when it says this. Everything can be worked through.
So how about continual infidelity?
Continual infidelity may be something totally different.
You just gonna leave it like that?
Did you want to touch on that, honey?
I'm asking you a question. How about continual infidelity?
Continual infidelity would be saying that I'm willfully sinning. Because when I messed up once, I knew the pain that it brought my spouse. I knew the hurt that it brought to my family. And when I go out and I do it again, I'm willing to risk all of that for the sake of temporary pleasure. And to do temporary pleasure means that you don't care about anybody but yourself.
That's right.
So then, and this is just an opinion, this is not a fact. Willful and continual infidelity, you may need to rethink it.
So when we deal with, because we do couples counseling a lot, and when we do couples counseling, a lot of times we have people that come into our counseling sessions and they're at the point of, they come to counseling because they've dealt with infidelity, they've dealt with different issues, and they're still together. They're still living together, they're still married, and they want to harp on or talk about over and over again the act of the infidelity. They want to go on and on about the act of the infidelity. And the infidelity may have happened 5 years ago. And the thing that I kind of get to is, but you're still here. But you're still in the relationship. But you're still living together. So if you are still in the relationship, obviously you still want to be here. There's still something that is keeping you here because you are here. You came to us for counseling. You came to us for this session, and you're still in this relationship. So there's something that's keeping you here. So at some point, when I'm talking about the trust again, at some point we have to let the infidelity go. Because the more that we harp on, the more that we continually talk about the infidelity, the more it brings it up. The more that it brings it up in you, the more you deal with it within yourself. The more you talk about it, the more it comes up within you. So at some point in time, you have to let it go. I'm not talking about if it happened a month ago, 2 weeks ago, but I'm talking about something that happened years ago and you're still bringing it up. And you're still talking about something that happened 2 and 3 and 5 years ago. And you're still bringing it up. It's still going to bother you. There are going to be triggers that are going to trigger you to even think about it, that it may, something may, something you may see on TV may trigger a feeling of, that incident that happened 5 years ago. That's a trigger, but that's something that you got to pull down from messing up your relationship. But dealing with the trust again is something that you have to deal with within yourself if you are still in the relationship and actively wanting to pursue the marriage and actively wanting to stay in the marriage. It's something that you're going to literally have to let go, even in your mind. Because the enemy, even when you're trying to go forward in your marriage, the enemy is always going to try to bring up things in your marriage to destroy your marriage. And if you continually bring up that act of infidelity while you're in a marriage, trying to pursue going forward in a marriage, he's always going to bring something up that's going to try to hinder your marriage from moving forward. Continually bringing up an act of infidelity will hinder your marriage from going forward. And that's how trust is going to be hindered. That's how trust is going to stop. That's how you're going to hinder any forward movement. So I would say, how can you trust a partner again? If you are ready to move forward in your marriage and you're ready to get counseling, you're ready to let that thing go, you got to let it go. How can the other partner feel secure in the relationship? I don't care how much you can hold somebody's phone. I don't care how much you can stay next to somebody. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it. It is in actually trusting that person again and actually wanting to move forward in that relationship, and they're both having the mindset to move forward in a relationship and wanting the relationship. You want it or not.
And let me say this, because I know we have those memes on social media and the little flyers and the things that we share on social media that, a man will have, this at home and he'll go out and mess with a dog. In other words, y'all know what I'm saying. He'll leave his home to mess with something that's 2 steps beneath what he has at home. Sometimes you have to understand, and I'm going to the spiritual side now, I'm not talking from Lovett's point of view, I'm talking from the spiritual side. A lot of times what you don't understand is that what's going on in that individual, what's causing that individual to create or continue those acts, it's not just his flesh, but that's also a spirit. Sometimes generational curses that are passed down from one generation to the next that influences that individual to continuously go out to do what he should not be doing. So my answer to that as well is, sisters, if you're in the house, you in the church, you need to urge your significant other, brothers the same, you need to urge your significant other to be in a church home with you. In other words, find a house that can help you get delivered.
Amen.
That was great. Thank you guys for that. The next question is, how do you deal with infertility's challenges in your marriage?
number one, and this is both on, this is gonna be, support, number one, on both sides. Support from the mate and support from the wife. Both of you, and I'm gonna say medically, you need to both get checked out, because it could be on both sides. But support from one another, and a healthy diet for both sides. Healthy diet, you need to both be on one accord. I see infertility so much in African Americans that it really, it needs to be a study done on just African Americans alone on the infertility rate, and I don't think we really invest in it and really look into the high rate of infertility in African American women. But we really need to look into our diets. We really need to look into the male and the female rates in infertility, and we really need the support when we're dealing with infertility. Support from the male and the female, looking into their diets, looking into their health, and supporting one another. I've seen it personally that the support is not there. And when I say support, it's from top to bottom. Health, diet, and just going forth in one mind and moving forward in what we need to do to accomplish the goal. Prayer, love, and support.
Yeah, it's not that, and again, let's go back to the beginning. We are in the marriage and or the relationship because we are in love with one another. I have a great friend. I have people that I know that deal with this challenge, but you know what? It never affected their love for one another.
Right.
And because of that, I understand. I believe some of us are saying that we want something, but we're really not ready for what's next. We're not ready for the responsibility as well as the accountability that comes with being a parent as well. And so sometimes I feel, this is just Lovett's opinion, I feel that you get put on pause until you learn how to get it right within yourself and in your home.
And preparation for something is so important. We prepare for everything. We prepare for Christmas, we prepare for holidays, but we don't prepare for what God is getting ready to give us or what we pray for God to give us. We don't go in preparation mode. I think I did a study 1 week with the women in the church about preparing for things, preparing for our harvest, getting ourselves prepared for receiving something. And we don't get ourselves prepared to receive what God is getting ready to give us. I talked about how to plant stuff and how to get ready to receive what's going to come up out of the ground. And a lot of times when we're praying for God to give us something, we don't do the preparation part of things. If you're getting ready for, and I'm going to use this as an example, if you're getting ready to get a husband, I want a husband, how are you preparing for that mate? What are you doing in preparation to receive your husband? Are you sitting around looking at the wall saying, God, send my husband, oh, he gonna come? But what are you doing in preparation for your mate to come here? How are you preparing your home? How are you preparing your body? How are you preparing your mind to receive? To have a husband is a whole nother job. Amen? Amen. That's a whole nother job. That's a whole nother person you got to worry about. How are you preparing your mind? How are you preparing your body? How are you preparing your soul to be connected to somebody else? So there's so many things that you need to do in preparation. And preparing for a baby, there's so many things that you need to do. You need to prepare your finances. You need to prepare your house. You need to prepare the proper vehicle. All of these things you need to get in preparation. So if I'm asking for God to bless me with something, what am I doing in preparation mode in order to receive what I'm asking God for? Those are the things that we need to do. Start aligning the things that we're asking God to prepare us for.
I concur with the missus.
That's a joke from the couples retreat, y'all.
Thank you guys for that. The next question is, how do you stay attracted to your spouse when there is a significant weight gain due to hormonal changes?
Go ahead and answer.
That's for both sides. Male and
Yeah,
female.
it is. Hormonal, but when you say hormonal, it sounds like there was a female asking that question.
That's a female.
Let me start with me. When I met my significant other, I only had 3% body fat. I had an 8-pack, and I lifted weights every day. The longer we stayed together, the less I saw the 8-pack. I don't have a keg, but it might be a 12-pack or something. But does it affect the individual mentally? It may. But again, if your marriage is built on love, for me, looking at my wife, I look at pictures when my wife was when I first met my wife, and for me, this is just me. I like how my wife looks now because. I'm serious. I know you sisters, y'all want to be pencil thin, but that's not for everybody, right? That's not for everybody. And for me, yeah, she was fine then, she really was. But for me now, I got something. I got something. In other words, for me though, that same young lady that I saw 21 years ago, I still see her. I still see her. I don't really allow anything from having our children to affect the way that I feel about her. I don't look at her in that light. Again, I'm in love with her. I'm in love with her mind, but I sure love like her curves too.
So I'm gonna go in 2 parts with this. As far, and I could say the same thing for my husband. When I met him, anybody can tell you, my mom, my sister, and my brother, they all pick on me about this because I was not attracted to his mind in the beginning, period. I was attracted to his body, period. So, and I'm still attracted to him in the same exact way, period. So y'all, if y'all follow me on any Instagram or social media feed, y'all can see it's still the same way. So nothing has changed about the way that I look at my husband. It's the same exact way. I don't see nothing but the same thing I saw on the first day that I met him. So it's nothing for me. And I think that comes from being attracted to him wholly. Not just, and that's what I keep saying about when people meet a person, and that's how you know that that's your mate, that's your soulmate, is because it's not just an outside attraction. You have to be attracted to them wholly, the whole body, the whole person. Because even when I'm upset with him, I tell him, you better be glad I think you're cute. You better be glad I think you're cute. I tell him all, you better be glad I think you're cute, because if I didn't, boy, it'll be something totally different. And that's what I'm saying. You have to be attracted to them, the whole them, because you don't see nothing else. You don't see anything outside of them. It does not faze you. Anything else does not faze you because you're attracted to the whole them. Now, I'm going to say this to the women. And I can say this to the women because it happened to me. I had 2 children. I, took hormones and it blew me up. So, but in that, I didn't let myself go. You feel me?
Yes.
Because I still needed to be attractive to my husband. No matter what size I was, no matter what size I grew to, or how big I got, how small I got, middle size, whatever, I still needed to be attracted to him because I know he's an attractive man, right? So I'm not no dummy. Hello. I'm not no dummy. I know that there's very attractive women that are attracted to him. I know that he ain't blind. He got 20/20. His eyes better than mine. So I know that he can see. And I know that men see. I know that men are sight people. Okay? Y'all feeling me?
Yes.
They look. So therefore, I need to be attracted to his eyes. So I can't just gain weight and just be walking around here looking a hot mess. Okay? I need to still cover up all of this round curvage with something that's going to attract his eyes. I can't just let it all go and don't cover it up or make it look nice or make it look appealing to him, because I'm still his wife. So even though we may gain weight, even though we may go from small, big, skinny, whatever. We still got to make sure, women, that we still on point and we come into the best no matter what. No matter if we skinny, big, fat, whatever, that we still rolling with everything. It don't matter. So that is the advice I would give you. It don't matter if your hormonal changes or whatever, your husband's still supposed to love you, but please don't be around here sloppy. Get it together.
Okay, this is the last and final question, and then we're going to take a few questions from our audience. The question is, what would you say the keys to a successful marriage?
Honor, trust, and communication. Love above all.
Yeah, I would say communication is key. It is the most important thing in marriage, is communication, and learning the 5 love languages is something that is extremely important, because you need to learn his love language. He needs to learn my love language, because we speak different love languages. What he wants, I could be trying to give him what I want and he's not receiving it. And he could be trying to give me what he wants and I'm not receiving it. So we both have to understand our love language. We both have to understand what we want to receive from each other. So I think the most important thing is communication, and the other important thing is to learn your mate and learn what they want from you, and what vice versa, what you want from each other, and then grow from that. Love is absolutely the most important thing in order to grow a long-lasting relationship.
Okay, how do you handle when your spouse, say you notice that there's a problem. You can tell by the body language, the tone of their voice, even though they say they're okay and everything like that, and you engage and you ask your spouse a question and they still shut down. So now you got to take 95 to Donna Ross to military to Happy Hill, come all the way back to 45th Street to try to resolve this issue. But they continuously say, I'm fine, I handled it. But instead of you handling it with your spouse, you take it upon yourself to kind of like leave your spouse out of it. You know what I mean? So how do you handle that?
There has to be a level of maturity in both of you. If maturity is lacking, that's the result. But a mature spouse or significant other, they may not feel like talking, but if they're real, they're gonna say, you know what, I ain't cool yet, but give me a minute, we'll talk later. Let me cool down, because every now and then we still need our space for cool down, for everything else. But there has to be a level of maturity, and so again, that goes back to, do you even know who you're with? Have you taken the time to learn the significant other, your spouse? Because if you haven't, it's things like that that'll throw you off. And as they get mad, now you find yourself getting mad. Right. And simply because, you know what, you can't get through. You just simply trying to find out what's going on. I just want to know what's wrong, and you can't find out. And so it gets you upset and you go off the deep end. So that means you don't know that you really picked up somebody who's lacking in an area of maturity. But what you can do, again, give them their space. You ask them like you did. You've done your part. And when they come to themselves, you'll begin to talk it out.
Well, I've noticed that in our relationship, I find myself trying to be the fixer. And even in relationships with other people, I find myself trying to be the fixer. So in trying to be the fixer, I'm always looking for you to tell me what to fix. So, and in that, you can't always try to fix everything for everybody. So, and with, my husband, he is the type of person that oftentimes when he is upset, he gotta think it out. I don't want you to think it out. I just need you to tell me what's wrong so we can fix it, like right now. All that thinking time, let's cut that in half so we can fix it right now. But he's, methodical. He got to think about it. He got to get the Greek terminology for it. You feel me? I don't have time for that. So he has to think, let's fix it. But sometimes you just got to allow people, just give them their space, give them their time. And I've learned that, I'm still learning it, because I'm still that one to be like, what's wrong? What's going on? He like, just give me time. So sometimes you just need to give them that time, give them that space. And when they're ready to talk, but know that I ain't gonna give you that much time.
Yeah, fellas, understand that we are more methodical, where women are more spontaneous.
My next, anybody get that question? Okay. My next question is, how do you handle birthdays? Okay, say your spouse and your mother has the same birthday, right? So how do you know what I'm saying? How do you balance that? Do you do, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to do more for one and then less for the other or whatever like that. But how does?
You want me to answer that? Yes.
See, the key word you said spouse. When a man, for this reason, when a man leaves his father, cling to his wife. Therefore, wife comes before all, mama, daddy, children, everybody else. This is God's hierarchy. Wife comes before everybody else. Now, do you say, hey babe, if you got a very mature woman, she's gonna understand if you peel off for a minute. If she's a real good woman, she's gonna go with you to go give your mother her gift or whatever she needs, but your celebration needs to be with her. That's who you created a new life with. She's numero uno at all times.
All time. But in that, let's be clear. Don't you ever ask her who we got to do first.
Yeah, don't
Or
do that.
Or I'm trying to figure out. That ain't Chanel would be a question. Just if you have a mature, and like you said, if you have a mature spouse, you will do it together. I'm sure we would get mama out the way first, and then we gonna take care of us. But yeah, don't ever ask. That's gonna cause problems. Any other
Good question.
questions? Yes.
My question would be, a lot of times we're women, I guess, or maybe even men, we're very boisterous. So say for instance, something is going on in a relationship and you want to get your point across. Is there a time that you kind of sit back and don't get your point across, just kind of, I don't know if to say wait it out or let things be, or do you always have to voice how you're feeling?
I think it's a time and a place for everything, and I do not believe in you bottling up your feelings and keeping them to yourself, because eventually they will burst and eventually they will come out. So I do believe in open communication. It's how you communicate. That's the key. And if you're having a conversation, we talked about it this weekend, it's tone, and it's the way that you talk. It's body language. It's the way that you talk. Do not hold your feelings in, but it's the way that you communicate, and it's the way that you get your feelings out. I would never suggest you hold your feelings in.
Did that answer?
Yes.
You said it.
How do you feel about that?
I mean,
Because I don't hold my feelings in, do I?
no. You have to know their limits. You really do. You have to know when and where to begin to start and stop. And sometimes even if you have to come back when everything has calmed down, you have to know that. You definitely have to know that.
Okay, I have a question. When is it okay for, like, say you and your spouse has a problem, but she goes outside, like, to talk to somebody else for help or whatever, and she gets mad when you be like, oh, why you didn't come to me and talk to me about it first, or whatever the fuck. You get what I'm saying?
No, I don't, because you said she. comes back and
like say you and your spouse has a problem, right?
Right.
And she goes out and talk to her homegirls or whatever about the problem, whatever, and get advice and everything. How would you feel?
To answer your question, I would not suggest you ever go outside of your relationship to get advice. And for a couple of facts. Number one is that you really need to deal with what happens in your relationship within your relationship. You should be able to troubleshoot within your relationship to get to common ground and to solve problems. If you cannot solve problems within your relationship, you need to go to a mature, let's say counselor, mentor, to help you with that. But going to your friends oftentimes leads to your friends always kind of looking at your spouse sideways, like, I know this about Buddy. Or, it could always be something negative, because they're always going to take your side of the story. They're always going to take your side because you're their friend, and they should. But you never want to kind of put anybody else in your business.
My friend don't always take my side. My friend don't let me know when I'm wrong.
Well, that's true. That's true, but still, you should never. And a good friend should tell you when you're right or wrong. But still, you should be able to troubleshoot within your relationship.
Okay, my question is about finances.
Okay.
Okay, so I have a two-part question. For a husband and wife, do you believe in separate bank accounts or a joint account? And also, if you have a spender and a saver in the family, in the marriage, how do you handle that?
I'll answer the first one. Again, I know we're in 21st century, and we've come across a lot of couples that separate their finances. Again, separate finances alludes to, one, a lack of trust, two, a lack of commitment, but it also alludes to two having become one. So then, therefore, my belief is there should not be separate accounts. And if it is, you both should have access to the other accounts. We've been joint for 20 some odd years, as far as I can remember. And I guess she don't steal from me, because she always told me what's mine is hers and what's hers is hers. But I found out because she's responsible as well. She's very responsible with handling our finances from the day-to-day operation of our household. I don't think twice. As I tell the guys on my job, I just put the money in the bank. And as I put the money in the bank, then therefore I'm doing my job and she's gonna handle the rest. So separate bank accounts, I don't agree with. Again, it also alludes to different marital issues later on.
Okay, again, we do marriage counseling all the time, and this is the advice that we tell couples. We leave it up to you, because every household is handled differently. What we do in our house has definitely worked for us for 21 years. And it has worked for us in a way that we have not had any issues for 21 years. And we share bank accounts, and we shared bank accounts for 21 years. We don't have separate bank accounts. We've never had separate bank accounts. So it works for us. And the question that I pose to them is, when you have separate bank accounts, do you go half on stuff? Is that how you kind of pay bills? Is that, it leads to questions for me on, is it like a roommate status? How you trust them with your life? So those are some of the things that you want to think about. Now, when it comes to the saver and the spender, that's one thing that you need to think about, is who's the saver and who's the spender, and who's going to handle the accounts. If he's the saver, you need to make sure that he handling the accounts, because you don't want to be over there, you know, going to Neiman's and just, you know, making it rain. You know, you have to have someone who is responsible handling your accounts and who's going to be a saver. But in that, you need to have the conversations. You need to make sure, again, you're communicating. What's our goals? What are some things that we want to accomplish? What are some things that we want to save for? What are some things that we want to spend for? Make sure you guys know, you know, what's going out and what's coming in. A lot of couples don't even have these conversations until it's too late, until we are, you know, we got a huge bill that we got to pay for, and now we got to figure out how we got to get it paid. We got to have these conversations, and maybe even on a monthly or every 2-week basis, you know, depending on how you get paid. What's going in? What's coming out? You know, what are we spending for? What are we saving for? Do we have children? Are we saving for college? Are we doing all these things? You know, what's our long-term goal? Are we getting ready to retire? Are we getting to that age where we need to be thinking about retirement? Those are all some things that we need to be sitting down and having conversations about. It really boggles my mind when we sit down with couples and they don't talk about these things. What are y'all doing?
Remember, in marriage, finance is one of the #1 reasons for divorce.
Yeah.
This concludes our Love and Marriage Q&A.